Hi there. Imagine for a moment that every time you walk into a patient's home, you're not just a nurse, but you're a private investigator. Your job is not to just complete tasks. Your job is to solve a case. This case is what is really happening with the patient. Most new nurses walk into a home looking for tasks to perform. Experienced nurses walk into a home for evidence. So what's the difference? Well, a private investigator doesn't walk into a crime scene and immediately decide what happened. They collect clues, they ask questions, and they verify information. And they look for inconsistencies, and they build a story based on evidence. A skilled nurse does the very same thing. So step one is survey the scene. The investigator's first question is, what am I looking at? Before interviewing anybody, before forming theories, they study the scene. As a nurse, this means observing the patient, the environment, mobility, breathing, appearance, medications, and safety hazards. The best clues are often found before a single question is even asked. A patient may tell you they're doing fine, but the walker beside the chair, the swelling in the legs, and the shortness of breath while standing may tell a very different story. Investigators trust evidence, and so nurses should do too. Establish a timeline. Every investigator wants to know, when did this start? Without a timeline, there is really no story. So ask yourself, when did the symptoms begin? When did swelling increase? And when did weakness worsen? When did medications change? A timeline often reveals the cause of the problem. Step number 3, identify the suspects. Investigators ask, what could be causing this? Nurses ask, what is this happening? Why is this happening? Possible suspects include disease progression, medication issues, poor compliance, infection, environmental barriers, and caregiver limitations. At this stage, don't accuse anyone, develop possibilities. Investigators call these theories. Nurses call them critical judgments. And so step 4 is follow the evidence. Now ask, what evidence supports my theory? If you suspect worsening congestive heart failure, what evidence exists? Well, weight gain, edema, increased shortness of breath, fatigue, and reduced activity tolerance. If the evidence doesn't fit the theory, well, just keep investigating. Good investigators don't force the facts. Good nurses shouldn't either. Determine the risk. Every investigator asks, what happens if one intervenes? Nurses should ask the same question. Could this lead to hospitalization, falls, infection, medication errors, or functional decline? The risk determines the urgency. And then step number 6, take corrective action. Once investigators have enough evidence, they act. Nurses do the same. Interventions become targeted because they are based on evidence and not just assumptions. You aren't teaching because a checklist says to teach. You're teaching because your investigation identified a specific risk. And then step number 7 is build your case. At the end of an investigation, evidence is organized into a report. Documentation is your case file. Your note should answer, what did I find? What evidence supports my findings? And why does it matter? What actions were taken? And what risks remain? And what happens next? Strong documentation is simply a well-built case. The biggest mistake new nurses make is trying to be task managers. The best nurses become investigators. They walk into every visit asking, what's the real story here? What evidence supports it? What risks exist? And what should happen next? When you think like an investigator, your assessments become sharper, your teaching becomes more meaningful, and your documentation becomes stronger, and your patients receive better care. Because skilled nursing isn't about just checking boxes, it's about solving cases. Well, I hope this has been a benefit to you. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this, and I hope you have a good day.